news this week. Meat causes cancer. The backlash. Aussie and Kiwi volunteers help rebuild Vanuatu. And popping in for a cuppa at the Death Cafe?
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Last week's announcement from the World Health Organization that red meat, and particularly processed meats, are cancer hazards, has caused a stir amongst the meat-loving Australian public. The connections between meat and bowel cancer have a well-established body of research behind them, but that didn't stop the critics. Federal Agriculture Minister Barnaby Joyce downplayed the WHO report on ABC Radio, saying it's ridiculous to equate bacon and sausages with other Class 1 carcinogens such as cigarettes or asbestos. Amid the flurry of discussion, an announcement of alcohol research from the UK received little attention from the media. The study, reported by The New Daily, showed that drinkers who abstain from alcohol for a month showed marked improvements in their blood pressure, diabetes risk and liver health.
This is not new information for us as a church. We've known this since the 1800s. There is a very strong relationship between physical health and spiritual health. And here we talk about meat, but we also talk about alcohol and its influence on the mind, which destroys the wholeness of life that we as a church espouse to.
Teams of Aussie and Kiwi volunteers are making a real difference as Vanuatu rebuilds after the devastation of Cyclone Pam earlier this year. 53 Adventist church buildings, as well as schools and church workers' homes, were destroyed in the storm, but new construction is taking place in a number of different areas. The first church to be rebuilt is at Pang Pang, a village on the island of Efate. Overseas volunteers worked together with locals to get the building completed in time for its dedication service. The new steel buildings, designed by an Adventist builder in Brisbane, can be assembled quickly on site and are rated to withstand a Category 5 cyclone. Syrians fleeing civil war are facing a new threat to their safety in Jordan's refugee camps, undercover ISIS hit squads. According to Britain's Sunday Express, a number of aid workers and refugees say Iraqi and Syrian militia groups, including ISIS, operate as gangs within some refugee camps. One ex-jihadist said he was sent to the camp specifically to kill Christians, but was converted himself after witnessing the love of Christian aid workers in the camp. Claims are also being made that Christian girls are being kidnapped and sold as sex slaves, but most refugees are afraid to speak out for fear of reprisals. As hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers stream into Europe, Christians in Germany are at loggerheads over the ethics of evangelizing Muslims. Stories are emerging of hundreds of Muslims converting to Christianity. Some have been accused of doing so in order to strengthen their claims of persecution in their home countries. According to Religion News Service, one of the largest Protestant organizations in the west of the country has released a statement renouncing deliberate strategies aimed at converting Muslims. The statement says such strategies threaten social peace and are not in the spirit of Jesus. Evangelical church leaders have reacted with shock and have reaffirmed their commitment to spreading the gospel. Despite the debate, however, Christians of all stripes are continuing to assist the new arrivals. A new documentary reveals a disturbing organ transplant trade in China, where prisoners of conscience are executed on demand in order to fill orders for what has been described as a billion-dollar industry.
Murder seems to have been committed, perhaps tens of thousands of murders. The mystery is why so few people seem to be paying attention.
I felt this was sort of a horrible thing and nobody really wanted to look at it.
An expert interviewed in the Hard to Believe film told ABC Radio last week that people imprisoned for their faith are targeted for organ transplants. Christians, Uyghur Muslims, and particularly followers of the Falun Gong meditation movement. Hard to Believe is being shown on public television in the US and will be released in Australia next year. In an announcement that has a whiff of the apocalyptic about it, scientists from the US say that if humans continue releasing CO2 into the atmosphere, parts of the Arabian Peninsula will experience extremes of heat that the human body cannot survive. Temperatures above 50 degrees Celsius have already been recorded in the Gulf states. The study, published by the Nature Climate Change Scientific Journal, predicts that by the end of the century there will be days so hot and humid that they'll feel like they're in the 70s. The predictions make the biblical book of Revelation's plagues sound plausible.
Now, in Revelation chapter 16, you have the prophecy of the 7 last plagues, which speak about the sun having tremendous power to scorch the earth. There's no question that extreme weather events like this are a sign that Jesus is coming back soon. However, we should not just automatically assume this is the beginning of the plagues. We don't know whether those plagues are going to be natural events or whether they're going to be supernatural events.
It's a surprisingly serious trend that's catching on around the world, enjoying a cuppa and a slice of cake at a death cafe. The Death Cafe brings together strangers and friends to talk about what some are calling the last taboo, discussing the practicalities of death, grief for those who've passed away, and beliefs about the afterlife. The brainchild of a Swiss sociologist, the Death Cafe movement has now spread to France, the UK, the US, and even New Zealand. According to stuff.co.nz, the Anglican Vicar of Waimate, south of Timaru, has had some success running monthly Death Cafe events during the week in the church complex and is experimenting with an evening as well as a morning time slot. It was a brave move and one that attracted a lot of attention. Jackie Green from Queensland's Gold Coast decided it would be fun to blindfold herself and offer hugs to strangers on the street, all for a good cause. Her Hugs for the Homeless idea had the aim of raising $1,000 for coffee and coffee cups for Catholic charity Rosie's. But Biopack, the company she approached, looking for a good deal on biodegradable coffee cups, was so impressed they said they'd make an ongoing donation of 100,000 cups every year. Rosie's coordinators say they're very grateful for Jackie's support and the company's.